Hello, selamat kembali ke channel saya Walas Klasik. Hari ini saya ada satu cerita, satu video reaksi yang paling best juga. Sebab apa? Sebab tengah sibuk-sibuk cari tempat nak pergi bercuti ke negara orang yang bermusim-musim, 4 musim, 5 musim, 6 musim. Tapi ada orang yang datang dari luar, dari negara bermusim-musim itu ke Malaysia dan duduk lama juga di sini. Tapi dia cakap negara kita tak sempurna, tapi dia duduk lama di sini. Kenapa ya? Jomlah kita dengar cerita dia sebab dia ada cerita-cerita yang memang best.
You're not really sacrificing any quality of life living in Malaysia for a significantly improved cost of living. And that's one of the reasons I think it's probably where everyone should travel. Malaysia is one of the best countries in the world for that. We make it no secret, we think Malaysia is one of the best countries on the planet. You know, I seriously considering moving here. And yeah, we just want to talk about some of the things that we love about Malaysia. First thing we absolutely love about Malaysia is that it's not perfect. And I'm comparing this to Singapore, right? So you've got Singapore over here and you've got Malaysia up here. And we've spent a bit of time in Singapore. And the thing with Singapore especially is, yes, it's a very nice country, but it's so sanitary. It's so like...
It's the same as Australia.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you're like taking Australia to Asia and it's the same. We like the same, but we don't like the same, right?
And it's too sanitary.
Negara Malaysia sebuah negara yang boleh katakan fleksibel, tak terlalu songi sangat, remeh sangat. Sampai orang takut nak masuk sini, tak boleh buat ni, tak boleh buat itu, tapi kita kena ikut semua undang-undang. Bukan yang itu saya cakap pasal yang tadi dia cerita tadi, sanitary itu bermakna terlalu bersih, takut sangat, nak buat ni boleh ke, nak buat tu boleh ke. Tapi dia cakap tadi Malaysia tak adalah terlalu perfect dan dia berada di tengah-tengah, fleksibel kan, tak terlalu sempurna ataupun sempurna, jadi mereka tak takut sangat, mereka boleh pergi mana-mana, ada freedom kan. So mereka ikut undang-undang negara Malaysia dan travel dengan senang hatinya. Itu yang beliau nak ceritakan tadi.
Sanitary, you really feel like you can't do a lot of things in Singapore because it's quite aggressive with the policing there and things like that. Malaysia's this like nice mix in the middle of it not being perfect. You can go on a few more adventures and be a little bit more adventurous and do things that you maybe not necessarily feel comfortable doing in Singapore. Like for instance, we just went on an ATV tour around Penang, Balik Palau. Sorry, my Malaysian pronunciation's still working on it. But we just went on this tour, ATV tour, and we got the kids and we put them on the front. Now, in Singapore or even in Australia, you wouldn't be allowed to do that, obviously.
They wouldn't be allowed to drive at all.
We took a calculated risk, the tour operators took a calculated risk, and we did it. And the boys had an absolutely amazing adventure. Remember Malaysia forever for that experience. We have a lot of those experiences in Malaysia, you know, probably more so than any other country we travel. And I think imperfection creates perfection in a way. So like the fact that it's a little bit imperfect, you know, look at this, there's mangoes literally growing on trees out the front here. And you know, it's like little things like this that concrete in our memory is like, this is a really, I'm going to remember these experiences we've had in this country. So Malaysia is really good because it's not too imperfect that it's like not livable for a foreigner or a tourist, but then it's not too perfect where you feel like you're getting on a little bit of the wild side and doing things that you would traditionally do in your home city. So Malaysia is a big tick in that aspect, a really big tick. We got a kitty over here that's making a lot of noise, wants to be in the video. So the next thing we wanted to talk about and why we absolutely love Malaysia, I know people talk about this a lot and we've actually spoken about this a lot, but
in multiple videos.
Malaysians and the ethnic cultures that are women within Malaysia, beautiful people.
Memanglah di Malaysia ni dah banyak kali saya ceritakan, orang Malaysia ni kalau siapa-siapa minta tolong, dia tolong aja, dia tak kisah siapa, dia tolong aja. Kalau poket dia tu cukup duit ke tak cukup duit pun dia tak kisah, dia beli makan pun berkongsi-kongsi. Apa nak buat, inilah perangai Malaysia, orang Malaysia yang sebenarnya kan. Tapi kita kena berterima kasih lah kerana kita ni tak berkira sangat. Sebab itulah kita hidup dalam negara walaupun ada kekurangan sini dan sana, tapi tak apa, itu semua kita tak, jangan kisahkan sangat, janji kita happy.
Really are, and I'm not saying that, you know, for any other reason except the fact that like we've been around a lot, and I would say the Malaysians are some of the friendliest and nicest people we've met, and respectful. Respectful's a big one as well. You know, you go to a tourist area and you don't have people in your face trying to sell you things. Whereas you go to some other Southeast Asian countries and you understand why they do it. It's, you know, it's part...
They've got to make a living.
They've got to make a living. But because of the majority Muslim population and the big cultural diversity here in Malaysia, there's a lot more respect. And I love that. I love that about Malaysia.
Just yesterday, we had to borrow one of the staff members at Escape to do our ride. Our ride needed 4 people. I was told he was too heavy, so I needed someone else on the ride with the kids. We literally borrowed a staff member and she was so happy and excited to do it with us that she was just there with a smile on her face that she could help us.
Speaking of smiles, there's smiles everywhere here. You know, we've run into lots of people now and they're all just smiling and happy. And obviously, like every country in the world, there's problems, but for the most part, everyone's just happy to go with the flow. It's a relatively peaceful country too. Malaysians and Chinese and Indian and all the Malaysian people that live in Malaysia, you're absolutely beautiful people. And I would recommend coming to this country for the people, if that's a thing. But yeah, the people here are amazing and we've only had a positive experience. Maybe not so much the police, but everyone else. So the next reason we absolutely love Malaysia is the food. And I think that goes without saying. I think
Definitely goes without saying.
and I think in about
And we mentioned it so many times.
yeah, I think in about 4 videos we mentioned the food. Like I've said, I love my food. Food here is absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
It's like nowhere else. You know, there's good food in a lot of countries. You know, Philippines has really good food, Vietnam. But because of the cultural mix in this country, food is just different. You can get like fusion meals between like Chinese Indian fusion and Malaysian Indian fusion.
One example, we drove past a restaurant yesterday and we're trying to describe it to our friends that we're talking to on the bus, and we read the sign and he literally did like 5 cuisines at one restaurant, like, and they're like, how does he do Indian yet local yet Western yet something else? And they just do, and they do it all well.
And the people that make this food take pride in the fact that they're in a country that is known for its food. So like there's a lot of heart and effort put into food. I've noticed this, and I don't know if you notice this, but like even if you get like Western takeaway like Burger King or A&W and stuff, just the fact that they put the burgers together properly. And like
They always look nice.
yeah, they put effort into what they
I feel
do.
like Australia, you just go
Yep.
like this.
We've had
and
some
done.
shocking food in Australia. As much as Australia's food quality is impeccable, we have some of the best quality food in the world. The people that are serving it a lot of time, a lot to be desired because there's no incentive to do it properly. Whereas here, you know, when you've got a whole country's reputation relying on your meal, that's how I feel like it's treated sometimes. And it's, you know, that makes the food really good here. And the other thing too is that because there's such a big diverse mix of people here and cultures, if I want to eat really spicy, I can. And then in the same place, if the kids and Pauline don't want to eat something that's spicy, they can get it in the same place. There's always a mix, and there's always a good mix of different types of food as well, which is awesome. So the next reason we really love Malaysia is that there's lots to do as a family. It's really a family destination, in my opinion. You've got countries all over Asia that have plenty of cool things to do, but Malaysia has a really, really good mix of super modern, super fun, high energy stuff like theme parks.
Crazy water slides, the biggest this, the biggest that, like, yeah.
And if you just love nature, you got like places like Malacca,
Cameron
Highlands, and
the middle of
Ipoh.
Penang,
Yep.
like the rainforest is here.
All flavors of travel. If you just want to do adventurous stuff, there's plenty of that. Yeah.
Hiking everywhere you
Yep.
possibly think of, you could go on a hike.
Yep. And if you want to just lay back and relax, there's plenty of resorts and things like that. And just like Genting Highlands and things like that for like the touristy
The
stuff.
fun stuff.
So like, I feel like that's a really good thing is that like, this is one of the best family destinations in the world, in my opinion, is Malaysia. So another reason we really like Malaysia, and it's probably something you don't think about when you're traveling, is air quality. We have kids and, you know, we don't want our kids sucking in really bad air because it's not good for them, right? It's not good for us. Malaysia's air quality is some of the best in the world. As far as like Southeast Asia goes, it's one of the best countries for air quality, and you really notice it. Like if you go to Manila, for instance, Metro Manila, you can barely breathe. And there's nothing against Manila, it's just there's so many people. The air quality here is much like Australia.
Yep.
Fantastic air and nature in Australia, and the air quality here is somewhat similar. And that's a really big plus if you're traveling or you're going to live somewhere for an extended period of time, because you can get really sick from bad air. You know, when you got kids, you want to make sure that they're breathing
You have to
really
think
good
about
air.
everyone when you have kids. You have to think about us, and you have to think about them.
Yep. Malaysia's got some of the best air quality in Southeast Asia, and that's a big tick in our books. So this one is super important to us, and it's another reason we absolutely love Malaysia, and that's that the majority of people speak English.
Enough to have a conversation.
Yes, yeah. You know, look, they're not native English speakers, but you can get by in Malaysia really easily by knowing just a certain amount of, you know, they knowing basic terms and them knowing basic English. And that's a big plus, especially for someone that comes from a native speaking country. You can go to countries like Vietnam and barely anyone speaks English, and it makes it incredibly difficult to get around because you know the basics, but when you're asking questions about a place, that's where the conversation stops. Whereas we can have conversations with people and kind of get the gist of what needs to happen, which is a massive plus. And Malaysia has the second highest English proficiency in Southeast Asia, and you can really see it.
Yeah,
you can tell.
So anywhere from the grab driver to the shop attendant to even the hawkers stalls, where you wouldn't think they have a whole lot of English, but they actually have more than what you expect.
Yep. I will say this though, very few people understand Australian English and understand how thick my accent
Australian
is.
Jimmy.
keluarga ini daripada Australia, memang cakap bahasa Inggeris dia sangat pekat, kena dengar betul-betul berkali-kali sebab dia cakap laju dan dia punya slang tu memang susah kita nak faham sikit. Kalau kita ambil exam IELTS, kalau you all nak tahu, dia pakai British English ataupun UK English, tapi kalau dia pakai Australian English macam yang dia cakap sekarang, habislah kita tak dapat markah yang tinggi. Jom kita dengar dia lagi.
Australian accent, I get a lot of people that just give me blank stares.
But that you just live with that. I don't think it's a problem with Malaysia. I just have to improve
Improve my English speaking because it's very
fast and it's slur words. So
I
funny.
think you've got a very thick accent
I do,
as well.
yes.
Yep.
funnily enough, if we need to really say something, I get Pauline to say it. So there's a lot of you that may be watching this video that are just listening to Pauline and just ignoring me, which is fine. That's why we both talk on these videos. All right, so this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but it's really important to us, is that Malaysia makes a fantastic home base for the rest of Southeast Asia. Hear a lot about Singapore as a home base, but cost of living is really bad in Singapore and it's really bad to find accommodation. Kuala Lumpur is a really fantastic base to see the rest of Southeast Asia because flights are so cheap and living and being here is cheap. So you can get on a flight to Manila and it might cost you $100 Australian or 300 ringgits.
Well, just an example, we're flying from Penang back to Singapore, and I think the total for 4 of us was under 100 Australian.
So under 300 ringgit to fly from Penang to Singapore. Now, for context, for those people that are watching from Malaysia, that same flight distance in Australia is going to cost you
Pelancong-pelancong dari Eropah khasnya yang masuk Malaysia, mereka dah selidik dan sudah Google dan sudah siap sedia dengan plan mereka sebelum masuk ke negara Malaysia. Sebab mereka tahu daripada Malaysia dia orang pergi ke mana-mana dan merayau-rayau, dah tengok semua negara, dah habis dia pergi menggembara. Lepas tu mereka balik ke Malaysia, duduk sini 1 bulan, 2 bulan sebelum mereka balik ke negara asalnya. Macam mana Malaysia ni?
1,200 ringgit a person. So it's amazingly cheap to use KL as your home base to see it. And then you come back here, spend a month or 2 in Malaysia, get your bearings, get your rest back, revive, and then go and see Vietnam or go see Cambodia. Go and see these other countries. And that makes a massive difference in my opinion. So we touched on this when we were talking about our home base, but one of the massive perks and one of the things we absolutely love about Malaysia is that the cost of living is so good. Obviously, coming from Australia, just about anywhere is going to have a better cost of living than Australia, but really, we've spoken to a lot of expats and us as well from personal experience, and the cost of living here is so good.
So much cheaper than Australia. So we're probably spending for a month about half of what we were spending in Australia.
And we're living comfortably, we're living and we're seeing sights and doing it. If we were just staying here and just living our life, we could probably be spending 1/3 of what we spend in Australia. The thing with Malaysia specifically over just about the rest of Southeast Asia is there's no reduction in quality of life for that cost of living in decrease. In some countries in Southeast Asia, yes, it's a lot cheaper to live, but then you also have to sacrifice a lot. In Malaysia, there's good internet, there's good health, there's good roads, the cars are readily available. English speaking, you're not really sacrificing any quality of life living in Malaysia for a significantly improved cost of living. And that's one of the reasons I think it's probably where everyone should travel, not just people from Australia, but I think as far as a country to come to visit and spend an extended period of time, Malaysia is one of the best countries in the world for that, just for that reason alone. But then you've got all these other perks that we've just spoken about, which make a massive difference too. So we've saved the best for last. Now, to be fair, everything on this list has been an amazing and part of the reason we absolutely love Malaysia. But this is one of the things I love the most about Malaysia. And Malaysians, you probably take this for granted, honestly, but it's a massive thing for Australians because it's so hard to get this, and that is delivery of things.
From postage to food to groceries, you can get everything at your door
And
within an hour.
you don't realize how expensive this stuff is in other countries until you come to a country like Malaysia and you can get groceries delivered for less than $1.
Oh, we did a grocery shop and it was over 100 ringgits, like $30 to $40 Australian, and they delivered it for like 65 cents.
It's unbelievable how efficient it is to have stuff delivered to you and how much more we're getting done. And like you said, there's a lot of Malaysians that are watching this. It's a great country, by the way. Love your place. Go to Australia. That same food delivery will cost you
About $15.
Yeah,
and
so
take
what,
you,
45 ringgit?
and take you like 24 hours to get.
Yep. It's such a subtle thing, but it makes a massive difference to quality of life. And part of the reason we love Malaysia, honestly, I had camera gear delivered to me. So it was 3,000 ringgit worth of camera gear. And it got to me within 45 minutes. I couldn't get to it, and they just used Lala move, whacked it in the back of a motorcycle. I had it in 45 minutes. Where else in the world does that happen? I don't know.
Australia, they cost you like $15 and take you like a week.
It's such an awesome thing. Like, I think too, any one of those things individually, a lot of countries have a lot of these.
Memang apa yang beliau cakap tadi, kalau nak beli barang di Malaysia memang senang. Kedai grocery mana-mana pun ada, kedai nak beli barang apa pun, supermarket pun buka sampai pukul 10 malam. Tapi saya pun pernah pergi ke Australia banyak kali, dan bila saya sampai di sana pukul 3 petang ke 4 petang pada hari Sabtu, supermarket dah nak tutup. Saya cari SIM card dari sana ke hulu ke hilir, sampai susah sangat nak dapat SIM card. Tapi di Malaysia ni senang, semuanya senang. Kerana datang ke Walas Klasik dan support channel saya akan cuba cari video-video yang best-best lagi untuk anda. Terima kasih. Jumpa lagi. Bye-bye.